The Aaron Goodwin situation just went from tragic to unbelievable. After months of silence, the Ghost Adventures star is finally speaking out again. And what he's revealing now is far more disturbing than anyone realized. His ex-wife's shocking murder-for-hire plot nearly cost him his life, but new details emerging from behind the scenes have left even his closest friends stunned. Tonight, we break down how Aaron Goodwin is once again breaking the news, and why the full story might still be far from over. Subscribe if you want to know what really happened when the cameras stopped rolling. Before the headlines, before the heartbreak, Aaron Goodwin was living what looked like a dream. After years of chasing shadows through the world's most haunted locations, he had finally found light. In August of 2022, the Ghost Adventures investigator married Victoria, a woman he often described as his peace. Their wedding took place at Disneyland, the happiest place on Earth, and for a while, it seemed like the phrase fit perfectly. The couple postponed their original 2020 date due to the pandemic, but when they finally exchanged vows, fans flooded social media with congratulations. Aaron appeared to have it all: love, success, and a sense of stability that fame had never been able to offer him. But even during those early days, small cracks had started to form beneath the surface. Aaron's close friends began noticing subtle changes. He was quieter on set, more distracted during investigations, and often avoided conversations about his personal life. When people asked how married life was treating him, his smile sometimes faltered. He blamed exhaustion, the toll of filming long nights in haunted prisons and abandoned hospitals. Nobody thought much of it at the time. Then, around early 2024, things shifted completely. What appeared to be a normal marriage was becoming something far darker behind closed doors. Victoria, for reasons that would later shock investigators, began reaching out to an unlikely figure, a convicted murderer named Grant Amato, serving life in a Florida prison for killing his own family. The contact began innocently enough through Facebook messages inspired by a true crime documentary. But fascination turned into obsession, and obsession turned into something unimaginable. Within months, she wasn't just communicating with a killer, she was allegedly planning one. The same man whose life revolved around exploring death and the unknown was now being unknowingly marked for it. And for Aaron Goodwin, the true haunting hadn't even begun. As investigators would later uncover, what began as a disturbing curiosity spiraled into a full-blown murder-for-hire scheme. By early 2024, Victoria Goodwin was allegedly sending Grant Amato a steady stream of private messages, not just casual exchanges, but chillingly calculated details about her husband's life. She sent Aaron's filming schedules, his travel plans, even GPS coordinates of the Ghost Adventures production shoots. Her goal was horrifyingly specific: to have Aaron killed while on location during an October 2024 lockdown in Bartow, California. According to digital evidence presented later in court, Victoria had set aside $11,515 for the operation, including a $2,500 upfront payment to whoever would take the job. Amato, from his prison cell, was allegedly helping her plan it all, promising to coordinate a phone call that would distract Aaron during the moment of the attack. She wasn't just fantasizing, she was preparing. The tone of their messages grew darker with time. In one exchange, Victoria reportedly wrote, "Am I a bad person because I chose to end his existence, not divorce?" Those words would later become a central piece of evidence in the investigation. Authorities believe the plan was to make the murder appear as a robbery gone wrong during one of Aaron's filming trips, ensuring that no one would suspect her involvement. But fate, or perhaps karma, intervened. In October 2024, correctional officers at the Florida facility where Amato was incarcerated seized his contraband cell phone. When they searched its data, they uncovered everything: the messages, the photos, the wire transfer discussions, and even Victoria's screenshots of Aaron's shooting calendar. The discovery triggered a multi-state investigation that led directly to her arrest. The betrayal was almost cinematic in its cruelty. While Aaron was out documenting hauntings, his own life had become the darkest ghost story of all, one written by the very person he trusted most. October 2024 would become a month Aaron Goodwin would never forget. The Ghost Adventures crew had been filming in an abandoned California location, a place already heavy with the kind of dread Aaron had grown used to. Cameras were rolling, lights flickered in the distance, and the team was midway through a high-energy investigation when Aaron's phone started to buzz in his pocket. At first, he ignored it. Then, it rang again and again. Something inside him said, "Answer it!" The footage that followed would later be described by fans as one of the most haunting moments ever caught on the show. Not because of the spirits, but because of the silence that followed the call. Aaron stepped aside, pressing the phone to his ear. The crew kept filming, unaware that they were capturing the moment his world unraveled. On the other end of the line were police officers from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Department. They were standing inside Aaron's home. Their words were calm but heavy. His wife, Victoria, had been arrested. She wasn't being held for theft or fraud or some misunderstanding. She was being charged with solicitation to commit murder and conspiracy to commit murder. And the intended target was him. Aaron's expression changed instantly. He froze, the color draining from his face as he tried to process the impossible. "The police are in my house," he muttered, voice shaking. "I don't know what's going on." He turned away from the camera, stepping outside for air. For once, the man who spent his career standing inside haunted corridors couldn't stay in the room. That night, Ghost Adventures captured more than just paranormal activity. It documented the exact second a man learned that the person he loved most had allegedly plotted his death. The crew would later confirm they had never seen Aaron look so hollow, so lost. He didn't yell, didn't break down. He simply stared into the dark, silent, and terrified. For the first time, the haunting was real. The hours after that phone call were a blur. Production was halted, crew members escorted Aaron off set, and for the first time in his career, he didn't say a single word to the cameras. In the days that followed, the story spread quietly through the Ghost Adventures circle. Whispered conversations, stunned text messages, and disbelief that something so sinister could come from so close to home. Aaron Goodwin, the man who faced the unknown for a living, had just been blindsided by the ultimate betrayal. When the official report dropped, it confirmed what he feared most. Victoria had been in contact with convicted murderer Grant Amato for months, planning and coordinating what prosecutors described as a calculated plot motivated by control and obsession. The evidence, the phone records, the screenshots, the money trail, left no room for interpretation. Within days, Aaron filed for divorce. The paperwork was short but heartbreaking, citing irreconcilable differences and emotional distress. In private, he told friends he was struggling to sleep, jumping at every sound and feeling like his entire reality had collapsed. "I thought I was safe," he confided to one close friend. "I thought she loved me." When Victoria was arraigned, her defense team called it a fantasy gone too far, but prosecutors didn't agree. Her messages, her wire transfers, her discussions about timing, it was all too specific to be dismissed as imagination. She was charged with solicitation to commit murder and conspiracy to commit murder, held on a $100,000 bond, and kept in custody pending trial. For Aaron, the nightmare wasn't just in the headlines, it was in the silence afterward. The empty home, the unreturned texts, the sound of his own breathing when he tried to sleep. The same man who had spent years walking through haunted asylums and forgotten prisons was now scared to turn off his lights. And as the world began to learn what had happened, Aaron's quiet heartbreak was about to become painfully public. Months after the arrest, Ghost Adventures returned to the airwaves, and with it came a decision that split the fan base in half. The producers chose to include the very moment Aaron received that life-changing phone call in a new episode. It was marketed as the lockdown that turned personal, teasing audiences with the promise of never-before-seen footage. Viewers tuned in expecting paranormal chaos, but what they saw instead was something far more human. A man's entire world collapsing in real time. The episode aired in October 2025, and the moment hit like a gut punch. Aaron's phone buzzes. He steps aside, and his tone shifts from calm curiosity to pure dread. You can hear him say, "The police are at my house." Then, silence. The screen cuts, and narration takes over. For millions watching at home, it was raw, chilling television. But for Aaron, it was a nightmare reopened for the world to consume. On the day of the broadcast, he posted a short, emotional message on Twitter. "I won't be watching tonight's episode. I don't want to relive that night again." He added that while the lockdown itself had been intense, nothing could compare to what happened after that call. Fans flooded the comments with love, pleading with him to take time off, to heal, to step away from the cameras for good. But behind that single tweet was a deeper story. Insiders later revealed that Aaron had been hesitant about the footage airing at all. Some reports suggested the network insisted it was essential to the narrative, while others claimed Aaron approved it reluctantly, hoping transparency might finally end the speculation. Either way, the damage was done. That night, while millions dissected his pain frame by frame, Aaron sat alone, refusing to watch. He later admitted he couldn't bear to hear his own voice tremble. For a man who'd spent his life confronting fear, the scariest thing he'd ever seen was himself, realizing in that one call that the monster wasn't a ghost. It was someone he'd once called his wife. In the days following the episode's release, Aaron Goodwin vanished from social media. No posts, no updates, no photos from set. For a man who had built his career by sharing his most terrifying moments with the world, the silence was louder than any scream caught on camera. Fans began to worry something was wrong, and they were right. Aaron was retreating from everything. The show, the interviews, even friends. Behind closed doors, he was unraveling. Then, one night, a single message appeared on his Instagram stories. White text on a black background. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't performative. It was brutally honest. "To the press out there messaging me, thank you for reaching out and being awesome, but I can't talk about anything yet. I'd like to say I'm doing okay, but I'm not. I'm not good at all." He went on to write that every day was getting worse, that he kept learning new information about the case that made the betrayal cut even deeper. "They say time heals," he wrote, "but I just want the divorce to be over so I can move on with my life." It was a haunting admission, not from a TV personality, but from a man whose life had been shattered on both sides of the camera. In that moment, Aaron did something rare in Hollywood. He admitted he was broken. He didn't hide behind PR statements or staged interviews. He let people see the pain. His fans, many of whom had followed him since the early days of Ghost Adventures, rallied in the comments, sending thousands of messages of support. But no amount of sympathy could fill the silence of his home, the one his wife had once shared, now filled only with the echoes of what almost happened. He wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. He was just trying to survive one. And as the days turned to weeks, one question began to rise above all others. If Aaron was finally speaking, what had he learned that was too disturbing to share? As Aaron's silence stretched on, the world around him couldn't stop talking. Entertainment outlets dissected every word of his statement, every pause in his posts, while paranormal fans filled forums with speculation. Was he quitting Ghost Adventures? Had he uncovered something even darker about the case? No one really knew. But one thing became painfully clear. Aaron Goodwin, the man who made a living facing supernatural terror, had become the ghost in his own story. While he stayed quiet, his pain became public property. YouTubers, podcasts, and tabloids all scrambled to break down the Goodwin tragedy. Interviews resurfaced, clips were replayed, and thumbnails plastered his tear-streaked face under titles like "Ghost Adventures Star, Betrayed by Wife's Murder Plot." Fans were outraged. Critics called it exploitation. Even his own show's producers faced backlash for airing the call. Some said it crossed a moral line. Others defended it as authentic storytelling. Meanwhile, Aaron was struggling in silence. Friends described him as withdrawn, keeping to himself, often avoiding conversations altogether. One insider said he was haunted, not by spirits, but by memories. He no longer trusted the idea of safety, even in his own home. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who'd spent 2 decades chasing paranormal evidence was now terrified of the living. Still, his absence only fueled the legend. Some fans began connecting the timeline of his personal tragedy with strange events captured in newer episodes, claiming that his pain had awakened something darker around him. Whether superstition or sympathy, the narrative grew on its own. Through it all, Aaron never lashed out or blamed anyone. His few public words were simple. Sometimes, the scariest things don't live in haunted places. They live inside people. It wasn't a statement for television. It was a warning, a confession. And for those who knew him, it marked the moment when Aaron Goodwin stopped being just a ghost hunter and became one of the haunted. By the summer of 2025, the headlines had faded, but Aaron Goodwin's unease had not. He had stopped giving updates entirely, retreating from interviews and avoiding public appearances. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, he broke the silence again, this time with something far more cryptic. In a fleeting Instagram story that disappeared within hours, Aaron wrote, "There are things I've learned that are worse than what I already knew." No explanation, no follow-up, just that one sentence, a whisper that reignited an entire storm. Speculation erupted immediately. Some believed he was referring to new evidence about Victoria's communications. Perhaps she hadn't acted alone. Others thought it meant he had uncovered additional details that authorities never released to the public. Rumors swirled that the full extent of her plans, or even potential accomplices, had been kept quiet by investigators for safety reasons. Whatever it was, Aaron made it clear he didn't feel safe, emotionally or physically. People close to him later said he was battling severe anxiety, often jumping at the smallest noises and keeping his phone on silent at all times. One producer described visiting him and finding every curtain drawn, cameras still set up around his property, like he was documenting something unseen. He doesn't talk about it, they said. He just says it's not over. Meanwhile, whispers within the paranormal community began tying his personal tragedy to the strange energy surrounding ghost adventures. Some fans claimed his fear had bled into the investigations, that unexplained malfunctions, equipment failures, and violent spiritual activity seemed to follow him wherever he filmed. Whether coincidence or something more sinister, the show began feeling different. But for Aaron, this wasn't entertainment anymore. The real horror wasn't in abandoned hospitals or dark tunnels. It was in his inbox, his memories, and the silence after midnight when he wondered if the story was truly over, or if the haunting had just changed form. By late 2025, Aaron Goodwin's life looked nothing like it once did. The man who used to joke with Zach Baggins under flickering lights and laugh in the face of shadows was now quieter, older in spirit, and visibly drained. When fans spotted him in public, they said he seemed kind, but distant, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. His once playful posts about haunted artifacts and night shoots had been replaced with brief, reflective messages about healing, faith, and pain. He wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. He was learning to live with the one that nearly killed him. In November, he broke months of silence with a message that cut deeper than any episode ever could. You don't realize how fast life can end until someone tries to take it from you. It was short, haunting, and undeniably raw. Within hours, his post went viral. Thousands of fans filled the comments, thanking him for being strong, reminding him he was loved, and urging him to never give up. But behind those encouraging messages was a heartbreaking truth. Aaron wasn't healed. He was surviving one day at a time, piecing himself together from something that could have destroyed him completely. He later told a friend, off record, that the hardest part wasn't knowing his wife had plotted against him. It was realizing how long she had pretended nothing was wrong. Just months before her arrest, she had been posting Valentine's Day photos of the two of them cuddled on the couch, writing about love and forever. The thought of her smiling while secretly planning his death haunted him more than any entity ever could. "It's not the ghosts that scare me anymore," he reportedly said. "It's the people who look normal, but aren't." When the dust settled, Aaron faced a choice: return to ghost adventures or step away from the limelight for good. The show had built his career, his legacy, even his identity, but now it represented the night everything fell apart. For months, he stayed silent, weighing the decision in private. Then, quietly, he returned to filming. But something was different. On camera, his voice was softer, his reactions slower. Fans noticed the change immediately. It wasn't fear they saw, it was the weight of survival. He had stared death in the face and lived to tell about it, but the cost was written in every line on his face. Still, Aaron refused to let darkness win. He began posting more frequently again, talking about rebuilding himself through art, photography, and travel. He even opened up about mental health, encouraging others to talk about trauma instead of burying it. "You can't fight ghosts by pretending they're not there," he wrote in one post. "You have to face them, even when they live inside you." Those words became his quiet manifesto. He wasn't just the ghost hunter anymore. He was the haunted man who found light again. Slowly, fans stopped seeing him as a victim and started viewing him as something far stronger. Proof that even when your world collapses, you can still crawl out of the rubble and breathe again. As of now, Aaron Goodwin hasn't done a full interview about the ordeal. Maybe he never will. Some wounds aren't meant for public retelling. They live in the space between silence and survival. What's clear is that he's still here, still standing, still facing the dark. Even after discovering the real monsters don't live in haunted places. They wear wedding rings, they say, "I love you," and they leave scars you can't film. When fans ask if he'll ever go back to who he was before all this, Aaron's quiet reply says it all. You don't go back, you just learn to walk with the ghosts that followed you home.